soon. It's being printed right now so that, and then the council will get it and it'll be put out with the agenda. So if you want a copy of it, it's coming out soon. And in fact, it's in her arms right there. So, we will all be getting it very soon. So I just wanted to give you the heads up on that. Okay, so at this point in time, if we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the voting of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The moment of silence for those who've been lost. Thank you. David? Thank you very much. Okay. Secretary Phillips, can you give us a roll call?
Sure. Councilor Hughes.
Here.
Councilor Phillips is here. Councilor Silver.
Present.
Councilor Blackwell. Present. Councilor Wynn.
Present.
Councilor Burke.
Here.
Councilor Sadiq.
Present.
And Councilor Farrelly and Barnett are excused today. Councilor Wagner.
Here.
Council President Wentz.
Here.
And we have Officer Bacon.
Yep.
Okay. All present in the council.
Great, thank you. And also here this evening, we have Treasurer Heyman. We have Solicitors Richardson and Kilkenny. We have Mayor Pepper. We have CAO Grazioni. We have Municipal Clerk, Municipal Clerk Alexis Cicchetti. I also wanted to thank, at our last meeting, we had two other officers that were here assisting us, RJ Howell and Sergeant Lou Perry. So I know they're not here this evening, but I just wanted to thank them for helping us at our last meeting. So I just wanted to thank that. Awesome. So the meeting is officially open. So already there. So next up is rules of meeting decorum. Upper Darby Township Council and residents will maintain professional respect for each other. Council encourages free speech, however, civility is required, which would prohibit threats, profanity, scandalous, impertinent, and redundant comment, or any comment whose discernible purpose of which is to disrupt or prevent the conduct of the business of the meeting. Great. And I also want to verify that everyone's wearing a mask because we're still under those new restrictions again. So, okay, great. Thank you. Thank you all for wearing a mask this evening. I appreciate that. Okay, next up, can we get the approval for a motion to approve meeting minutes for the meeting of July 7th? Can we get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion, please.
Sadiq, and second? Okay. Can anyone second?
Second.
Everyone make sure your mics are on when you're speaking. So, Councilman Burke seconds it. Are there any questions or concerns on the minutes? I know Councilman Glenn was not able to find them. So I'll try and forward it to him after the meeting, sorry. Did anyone else have problems getting the minutes?
Anybody else receive?
Well, we're not sent separately, we're sent together, the council.
Did everyone get the minutes?
I don't ever see them, but.
I don't remember seeing them, but that
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean.
Well, then if more than just one council person didn't see them, then perhaps we should table the approval of these minutes to the next meeting so that everyone has a chance to read them. I didn't realize we somehow missed the setting of them up. So did anyone get the July 21st minutes? We didn't see it. Okay, so, so the motion on the table, well, can we get a motion to table?
I'd like to make a motion to table.
Okay,
Okay.
so Matt to, Bob to table. And, Matt to second table. Table. Okay, all those in favor of tabling the minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say your name. Ayes have it. So we're gonna table the minutes and we'll do, and then, so can I get a motion to table the minutes for July 21st?
Make a motion, please.
Today, and Glenn? All those in favor of tabling the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say your name. Ayes have it. Thank you. You will correct that for the next meeting. Thank you all for that information. So next up, we have a presentation for zero waste resolution. I know we had one a few months ago, but since we are voting on the resolution this evening, I've asked Nora Gavin to come forward. Can you come up to the podium and give us a little reminder of why this is so important? Thank you.
Yeah, so I believe there may also be a couple of Chester residents who were going to present, although I don't know if they're here. Is Carrie or Will here by any chance? Okay, then I will just read my statement. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I'm Kennard Gavin. I live in Drexel Hill. My zip code is 19026. I'm here today as an environmental activist and concerned resident of Upper Darby, as well as an ally of Chester residents concerned for quality living. Thank you very much for reviewing the zero waste resolution and bringing it up to a vote. I'm grateful that this step has been taken, and I've appreciated the conversations I've had with members of the Public Health and Environment Committee on this council. Moreover, I'm eager to continue as an engaged resident in the township in both its present and future efforts toward cultivating a more healthy, sustainable, and just environment. So we're living amidst a climate crisis, and while the impacts may not yet be apparent to everyone, communities like our neighboring Chester have been on the front lines of environmental damage for a long time. And before us today, as I see it, we have an opportunity for a really simple yet profound avenue for climate action in the township. A more livable future on this planet will require rigorous advocacy, collective thinking, and solution-minded planning. But that is all very abstract. Planning starts at home in our communities and our counties. For those of us living in Upper Darby, the adoption of zero waste will provide a tangible path to reimagining how we process our waste, which in turn will allow us to reduce its human and environmental impacts. Adopting this resolution will also make a statement to other townships that we must not allow environmental racism to hold sway and overrule environmental justice. So with this in mind, I just want to urge council to vote yes on the zero waste resolution. We must eliminate our township's direct tie to Covanta, a top air polluter in our region. And the incinerator is expensive in every way. It's been compromising health and well-being in Chester and Upper Darby for far too long. So yeah, thank you. And I don't know if there are any questions, but are
there any others? A couple people just came in. Did anyone from Chester come in to speak on zero waste? Okay, just wanted to make sure. Council members, do you have any questions for Ms. Gavin?
I do.
Okay, Councilman.
Ms. Gavin, if you don't mind, could you share with us your thoughts as to the alternatives for our waste disposal? Because as a community, especially one as large as this, we've got to do something with it.
Yeah, sure. So if maybe some of you have the kind of zero waste materials in front of you, but part of the zero waste hierarchy involves thinking about other solutions. So really focusing energy on reducing our waste, reusing wherever we can, and recycling. Another really important thing we could potentially develop and pursue has to do with composting, which basically is a way of maintaining the embodied energy, right, that's in all of our food, tree, vegetable matter, all these other kinds of waste have all this energy in them. And when they get incinerated, all that's just destroyed. It goes to nothing and we lose it entirely. So, compost is a way of kind of restoring those things to the soil, and, not letting them basically get burnt up. And, I think there will also need to be a kind of educational component to kind of helping folks think about and understand, what waste is created, how they might reduce their own waste. One way to kind of deal with that is something like a put or pay, or I'm sorry, not it. Let's see. One moment, I'm blanking on what I was just going to say.
Save as you throw.
Yeah, save as you throw. Thank you so much. My head jumped to the other payment related term. Save as you throw is kind of another thing that could be implemented to kind of deal with this waste stream from the township. Yeah.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Just to let you know, public comment will be happening. If any questions come up from the audience during the public comment for zero waste, I'll just ask you to come up and answer them. And if need be, then you can take a seat next to Treasurer Heyman if you do end up needing to answer questions.
Sure. Yeah, that's something. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for
I have a
being
question.
here.
I have
Sorry.
a question. How
Yes.
do you think Upper Darby is doing compared to neighboring towns, townships, boroughs?
Yeah, that's a good question. So 4 total boroughs have passed zero waste resolution so far, which isn't a ton, but Upper Darby passing one would be really meaningful, I think, and would, provide a good example for other townships to kind of think about how they can reimagine their kind of waste processing decisions and kinds of flows of waste. So yeah, I think at the moment, the fact remains that a lot of the waste does go to Comenta, so we are losing all these materials. We're also losing the opportunity to potentially, educate people toward thinking a bit more carefully about discard and, can this object go to someone else? Does this thing need to be actually incinerated and destroyed? So yeah, I think there's just kind of a long way to go. I think our township's not unique. Many areas across the country create just tremendous amounts of trash, and there are a lot of things that need to be done to kind of think about how we reduce that. But I think this is a good step and a good kind of guidepost for people to kind of begin to slow that flow a little bit and look toward less sort of poisonous solutions, right? Because this all goes into the air, it goes into our lungs every day. And, it's not just food and like wood that's getting burnt up. It's also very toxic, poisonous things that then become poisonous ash, right? Then it goes to the landfill where it further poisons groundwater, right? Just seeps into the soil and contaminates surrounding land. So it's overall just a very toxic, very expensive way to deal with our trash.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So I actually tag off of what you were just saying. One of the things that came up during COVID was a lot of people were putting things out on their curb saying, free, please take it, as a way to, share items that weren't, that are lightly used or barely ever used. And it was a way to reduce, and that's another way in which we can reduce trash. The more you can, put things out, you're not going to sell it, so you might as well just put it out and see if someone else can enjoy it for longer. And that's another way to reduce the amount of things that we're using, that we're putting into the trash. And actually, Mayor Pepper has installed a variety of programs so far that helps to reduce our trash by the month-long collection of the Christmas trees, at least 6 weeks. And then at this point in time, we are in the longest yard waste collection time period ever in Upper Darby. So it started in mid-April, right? To November 7th or 16th or something.
I think we're on Thanksgiving week.
Right, okay, so that's the longest, where every week we can put our yard waste out with our recycling. And that within itself helps to reduce, the amount of waste that's going.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick tag on to your point. I mean, the COVID example is really good. And, there are other reasons, people want to get rid of things. Maybe they don't have easy access to getting them to somebody else, right? And so they just end up putting them out right before the trash comes. There's no chance for that to kind of be taken up by someone else. And beyond the waste question, there's also a lot of need, I think, in our township. And these things are often perfectly good things that could be reused. And instead you have this big, huge thing or whatever that's getting tossed in there and getting burnt up and it's gone forever. As are all the materials and the energy and the kind of, resources that went into making them in the first place, that just gets destroyed. So, I think there's a way to kind of create a system too, where people kind of maybe they can all be posted somewhere or whatever. There could be sort of some centralized way for them to communicate that they have something that might be of use to someone else, right? And these things would be.
There's a bunch of buy waste or buy nothing Facebook groups, and a lot of people do put stuff out on Saturday or Sunday so that it has the weekend, but hopefully it's not going to rain type of thing, so that it's all people can come and get them. So
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So continue anything we can do to continue to do that.
For sure, yeah.
Awesome. Great. Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Great. So, sorry. Okay, so council, just so you know, we have 13 speakers. Are you all cool with all 13 speaking before we start the process? Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right, just wanted to check in with you. All right, great. So please go ahead with the public forum. Just remember, when you come up to speak, please state your name and your address, and we will be signing you. Everyone gets 3 minutes to speak. Is Terry Bradley?
Terry Bradley, 1213 Morgan Avenue, Drexel Hill, and I'm going to start my timer now. There remain 2 hazardous and dangerous tulip poplars measuring 80 and 100 feet in height, just 20 feet from my home, and within falling distance of many residents on Morgan Avenue. No less than 6 arborists have declared the trees diseased and decline in a death spiral with recommendations of removal. And one of those arborists is a risk assessment certified master arborist, very well respected in the state by municipalities and universities and utility companies, but apparently not by Mayor Keffer or her administration. It was not so long ago that Mayor Keffer was jumping on Allison Dobbins' recycling project and asking us to believe the science and to support the effort to get recycling efforts up and going in the township. Of course, we believe the science, but Mayor Keffer and her administration appear to believe only the science that inures to her benefit in her position. Mayor Keffer finds enforcing public safety laws too messy, and her staff claims it has nothing to do with the mayor's sensibilities, but rather his own. And anyway, someone else, we don't know who, has said all those professional arborists who said these trees were a danger to life and limb were wrong because the same unknown someone has said they are not. The solicitor has several iterations. The demand letter never existed and never went out. No report said the trees were dangerous, and if it did, they were not true or discounted. The removal letter did exist, but it went out in error. All of this included in attestations to state officials. How can all of you allow yourselves to be associated with that string of misrepresentations when you know that it shames and affects our township? As if this entire situation were not repugnant enough, the Keffer administration has determined that the residents are not only not entitled to public safety protection and enforcement, but also not entitled to know how or why our taxpayer dollars are being spent and what determinations are being made while they are on the taxpayer's payroll. This is what we get on the most rare occasion when they fulfill a right to know request. They black out and redact massive blocks of information to within an inch of the document's life and make it illegible and incomprehensible. Why do they get away with this? Because there's no accountability, none whatsoever. There are no repercussions for violating their duty of care and the elements of the sworn oath they took after the elections in order to serve. Personal choices that have public consequences are public health issues, and it is no longer just a rogue mayor. All of you have chosen to remain silent to the detriment of the people you serve. We don't believe what you say because we see what you do and what you don't do when you promise that you would do something. And for those council persons who have expressed regret about the situation, it's not good enough to say you're sorry that my family has suffered when you stand there as a bystander and do nothing. I'm asking again to stop this disgracefulness and do your jobs. All of you who are at large. Tom Wagner, who's my specific council person, but Matt Silva, Michelle Billups, Brian Burke, and Laura
Time
Wentz,
is up.
do your jobs.
Time is up.
Thank you, Ms. Wade. Next is Ms. Diamond Gibb.
Diamond Gibbs, address is 39 Chatham Road. Good evening, council. Tonight, I'll be speaking on behalf of UDTJ and our sister organization, Delco Resist. I'm sure you have all heard that SEPTA Union is planning to go on strike. The question is why? We were down in Kensington and the union president told us that Kensington police, as well as Philly police, have been forcing the homeless on SEPTA trains to come over to the county, specifically 69th Street Terminal. Excuse me. Homeless outreach workers and the police cleared out many of the homeless this morning as well. The homeless population continues to drastically increase in Delco, and because SEPTA workers no longer want to deal with them, they no longer want to work until the homeless crisis is resolved. Obviously, this is not an issue that can be resolved overnight, but immediate action is necessary now more than ever. And no, that does not mean send officers out in townships across Delco to forcibly remove the homeless from transportation centers like Philly did today. I have footage from an interaction that took place today at Darby Transportation Center, and that's not the way to go. Relocating them or arresting them is not going to give them what they need, which is accessible shelter. Some relationship has to be formed with Philly and Kensington, and that involves Mayor Kenny. On behalf of UDTJ and Delco Resist, we have constructed an overview for a network program that can provide the homeless with temporary shelter in Delco. We will be more than happy to go over that with all of you sooner rather than later. We are aware that Upper Darby Township is partnering with the county on opening a homeless cafe, and that Congresswoman Scanlon is now involved in the crisis at hand after doing a walkthrough at the terminal last week. Based on this information, I have 3 major questions for you all. So what is the time frame for opening the homeless shelter? Are you partnering with nonprofit organizations? And if so, how do you plan on partnering? And I think the most important question is, what is your structure for the homeless cafe? Meaning, how do you plan on going about opening it and keeping it open and consistently running? We can't afford to have another homeless shelter shut down in the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you for your concern. So as you know, it's Delco that is doing the homeless campaign. So they are the ones that's going to have the structure to the campaign. So then they're going to be voting on it this month. And they have the agency that's going to run it. And I'm sure it's probably structured. I just don't know all those details. But we can find out and get back to you with those details on and how it's going to be structured.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I mean, I could add a little bit.
Sure, please.
So, there will be a partnering nonprofit that will be a primary, administrator of, the Rapid Rehousing Center, and the programs on behalf of the county. So the money will come through the county to this nonprofit that was awarded the RFP, through a competitive process with other nonprofits. This nonprofit was selected. I don't think they've made the announcement public yet who it will be, which is why I'm not saying what particular nonprofit it will be. But there absolutely will be a nonprofit organization that's responsible for the day-to-day and long-term running of the center. And other nonprofits have already been invited and participated in the process. And we'd be very happy to have input from UDTJ and take your ideas and plans and bring them to the table or bring you to the table, et cetera, et cetera. Hopefully to break ground and open the Rapid Rehousing Center in 2022.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, Councilman Rogers?
I would just like to comment on what the speaker just talked about and also thank Mr. Rongione for the information that he gave us. I personally believe that the crisis of the homeless is one of the greatest challenges facing us as a community. And it's vitally that we address it and fix it, correct it. Because it's not just a problem for the homeless themselves, it's certainly that, but it's a problem for everyone in our community. So I don't want to preempt anything that's coming in the presentation that we're going to see in a little bit, but I'm hoping that at least a significant part of the recovery funds that the township is receiving now, both this year and next, will include real help for the homeless population.
Great, thank you. No.
Thank you. Next is Elisha Neal.
Hello, Elijah Neal, 1119 Top Street. I'm also from UDTJ, and I would like to say I'm also second and backing the zero waste resolutions being passed in Upper Darby. I would like to see with the zero waste resolutions being passed, that more community service more opportunities at community service can be adapted to fit alongside the zero waste resolutions. With the zero waste resolutions, there could, like Pinar previously said, there could be much more potential opportunities for strengthening the community and making and educating the community on more environmentally friendly solutions to disposal of waste. Like Pinar was saying before, with
Recycling, compost, reuse.
recycling, composting, and reusing of items, which could decrease much of the trash that we have already seen on 69th Street. A lot of like how we, UDTJ as an organization, would do cleanups on 69th Street the previous year. This could be something that would build the community and take one of the problems away from the board. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your support.
Next is Jim Burrow.
Please leave your mask on.
Okay.
Everyone's leaving their mask on.
Tim Burrows, 447 Hampshire Road, Drexel Hill. Start timer now.
Yep.
How you doing? I'm coming here tonight because I want to talk to you about you have a problem with employee. And the CAO, Mr. Ron, when he talks to the taxpayers and the people of Upper Darby, he needs to show them some respect. Now, last May 15th, I came here to pay my corporate taxes. And when I came into the lobby, I was greeted by someone, and they continued to ask me to leave the building. And after a back and forth, I asked them to show me the ordinance where I had to leave the building because your tax office was closed. I had to get the tax documents, which I filled out and submitted. So what happened is they became enraged, and I literally thought I was going to end up in a physical altercation. So I didn't, after I filed my taxes, I really didn't care too much about it. But then I saw Rich Bly come and talk about flying a POW MIA flag on this building. And after he was done, I saw Mr. Ragioni lecture him in a very condescending way on the history of the POW MIA flag. Now, at the end of this lecture, he said that flying this flag would start a culture war, or potentially start a culture war. So let me tell you, I'm a former Marine. I assure you, I know what the POW MIA flag means. I sure tailor-made vets knows what the POW MIA flag means. If you think that that's going to cause a culture war, you don't know what the POW MIA flag means. Further, if you're worried about starting a culture war, you can just pass a resolution saying that the only flag that can be flown on this building or in this building is the American, Pennsylvania, and Municipal flag, no other flags. Now, I know you won't do that because you had took quite a lot of grandiose photos this summer flying all kinds of flags on this building. So you're in the culture and you've chosen a side. Make no excuse about that. Finally, you need to counsel him to let him know that if he doesn't like the taxpayers and he doesn't like the citizens of Upper Darby Township, and he doesn't like his job, that he should resign and perhaps find a job in Philadelphia where he lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burrow.
Any
Yeah.
comment? Thank you.
I have one question.
Go ahead, Councilman Burke.
I believe after that conversation about the flag, I mentioned to the mayor, to CAO Ragione, that there were some 6 dates throughout the course of the year, and that we would have a healthy conversation in the future, that we would talk about the flag. I believe we said we would have a healthy conversation. CAO Ragione has had some meetings with some council people, and they weren't scheduled. Mine is scheduled August 23rd. That is on my list to speak to the mayor and CAO Ragione about that. That would be my first conversation with the CAO. I do believe I brought that up, and Councilman Wagner also agreed. And I think it was pretty healthy that we talked about it. So it is on the topic and it is on the conversation. So just wanted to put that into the minutes.
Yeah, I have 20 seconds. Can I use
And
these?
wait, and also, there was discussion about possibly flying the flag for a,
Oh, yeah,
perhaps
yes,
September,
yes.
or,
Just a consideration.
has
So
right consideration of that. We haven't.
haven't had that conversation.
Well, we have that conversation, but that was part of the council conversation after, this meeting, so.
Can I,
Yes,
I have
you
20
have-
seconds left.
I have you. Okay, I have you in three.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So go ahead.
I appreciate that, especially in lieu of the fact that our administration just bugged out of Afghanistan. And I suspect that there's going to be a lot of people that know what that flag means in the coming weeks. I do want to point out, this is about an employee disrespecting the people who come here and speak. I do not want to lose sight of that. So thank you.
May I, comment?
Councilor Wagner?
Similar to what Mr. Burke just said, it was my understanding too, that we were going to have a dialogue about this. And in fact, I'm embarrassed to say, I forget who it was, someone from Mr. Rangione's office, I know has been trying to get a date with me too, and we're going to get that done very shortly. So, you know, sir, I sympathize with some of the things you just said, but I've got to tell you that turning it into a personal criticism or attack on anyone individually, I think is not only inappropriate here, but it's just not the way to go here. It's not the way to get this done. And I have to tell you, I can't agree with those comments for the reasons I just said. That doesn't mean that I don't sympathize with the substance of what you're saying about the flag. I think it's important too that it should be flown. And we're going to be discussing it.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you. Olivia Taylor?
Olivia Taylor, 204 Kent Road. First and foremost, I want to thank the Upper Darby Police Department because I was down at the 69th Street Terminal last week and they rescued a 12-year-old child, an endangered 12-year-old child. They also saved the life of one of the homeless that was going into an epileptic seizure. I come from a family of law enforcement, so I take it personal when they are attacked, especially our department. These guys do a perfect job and they do a good job. And to have a member of the DDTJ, if I get it wrong, please take my apologies, to come in here last meeting and to criticize one of our officers when this person wasn't even there, to fabricate a story about one of our officers. I took offense. To blow it up to make this person seem important really got to me. I would love to see any one of you patrol our streets at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning against these bad guys. Not one. And no one from this group will do it either. But to come in here and jeopardize somebody's livelihood, I take offense to. I stood in the middle of 69th Street 2 years ago and defended them, and I will continue to defend them. These men and women put their lives on the line daily, and I am offended. Now, this homeless population has become their problem. The officer in question did not laugh at this homeless person. In fact, the same person that had the epileptic seizure, he saved his life last week. So I've had enough with this group. And I was really going to come in here and let them have it, but I'm not, because it's not all of them. Some of them do have potential and they do need leadership. But I don't like the fact that they have hindered people from moving freely, impeded traffic. And Mayor, I must say the one that really stuck out the most is State and Lansdowne, when they endangered welfare of lives of people that seek medical care. You dodged a real bullet that day, that nobody lost their life because of them, because the lawsuits would be flying in. You are responsible for the things they do and what happens in this township. They do not represent me. I'm sorry, they don't. Now, again, with the homeless, because there's so much I want to say in so little time. Now we hear the sector is going on strike because of the homeless population. They're workers, they're human, they have families, they don't want to get sick. This administration, again, I said it in the last meeting, was given millions back in April to get these people off the street. Now the city and the township is going to shut down because you've done nothing. Here we are back almost September. And now you saying that you're going to do something, we'll see. But when people can't get to work and we're still in the COVID, then what? Anybody? Anybody got any say? We want to see
What happens when the city shuts
Taylor,
down?
Your time is up and you should have had your mask on that whole time.
Okay, well, my
Keep
apologies.
your mask on.
I think I have 10 seconds left.
Nope, you ran out of time.
Okay, all right, made my point. Thank you.
Yes, Councilman Bennett?
Yeah, like every resident of Darby Township, Ms. Taylor has the right to say how she feels in the meeting. But I do think it's important to let every group in Upper Darby that's expressing their First Amendment right, you can do that here. We're not, I don't think any of my colleagues are in the interest of silencing anyone's voices. I don't care if you're the president of the I Hate Councilman Tunis Club, right? You should be able to express and have your First Amendment voices heard. So that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you take.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Next is the locker.
Ma'am. My name is Steve Lockard, live at 427 Spruce Avenue. I'm a member of Upper Darby Rain Gardens. We're a small organization that relies on resources from the Darby Creek Valley Association and help from many volunteers to accomplish our work. We made our first installation on Labor Day weekend last year. This elaborate rain garden appears to be working quite well. We'd like to invite all of you out to 900 Belmont Avenue in Seacane this Monday evening at 6:30 p.m. The homeowners, Richard and Jill, are very proud of our work and their maintenance of the project. They will be there to answer questions, as will we, to explain the importance of stormwater management and what we all can do to alleviate the destructive forces of stormwater. And if you can't make it, then that's okay. The rain garden is there every day. Go out when you can. But if you truly want to see it in action, go out someday when it's really raining hard. That's when it's most effective. It won't just look good, it will be working. Lastly, we'd like to thank Joe Martin and the Upper Darby facilities guys who repeatedly transported the tiller to make some long days less arduous for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple flyers. I'll leave them over here on the side.
Great, and thank you so much for the rain garden and the work that you're doing.
Next is Justin Cohen. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. No, I'm sorry. Justin.
Made me get up for nothing?
I'm so sorry. I had you out of order. I'm sorry. Next is Peggy Kowalski.
Thank you. My name is Peggy Kowalski, and I live at 634 Marion Avenue, Upper Darby, and have been a resident of over 40 years. I am also on the Environmental Advisory Committee. I wanted to publicly thank the mayor and her staff for rectifying a neighborhood problem. A neighbor at the corner of our street had a tree that had a large branch fall on her car and totaled it. A week later, another branch fell on a different car's windshield. When the mail lady was delivering the mail one day, she luckily heard a noise and avoided a third branch from falling on her and the mail truck. My husband notified the mayor's office via email. Within a week, even though it was over the 4th of July, he received notification that an inspector would investigate the issue. Within another week, he received an email that the owner was contacted and informed he had to have an estimate. And in that week, the neighbor removed his tree immediately. The email system that has been established works well, and I'm very appreciative. Thank you for making our community safer. I also want to thank the council regarding the recycling and the efforts that all of you have made to advertise the many different topics and areas to recycle. And lastly, I ask that the fireworks resolution
be enforced sooner than later. It is still apparent that random people are shooting off the fireworks close to the families. My husband was a volunteer fireman for 25 years, and I am so worried that someone will be hurt or a property will be damaged. Thank you very much.
Thank you. As to the, so we did pass the fireworks ordinance, so it is in place for it, and it's being enforced. So the snag that we have most of is when you hear the fireworks, notifying the police. There's a belief that a lot of people who are setting off fireworks also listen to the police scanners, so they know the police are coming their way. But if you can get video of them setting it off and where it is, then that goes a lot longer. I mean, it won't necessarily stop them for that moment, but it will help to stop them for the future.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Silver,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I just wanted to add to that briefly. Fire Chief Derek Sawyer is actually my understanding, and he's putting together an information sheet to be handed out at like the various events that the mayor and the administration have been having to let people know about the new ordinance and to understand it better because some of so if we educate all of the residents about the new ordinance, not everybody is going to immediately know to follow it, but once they're educated, and hopefully then, compliance will follow. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Devin Daniels.
Hi, before I start, the people from Chester, Kennar mentioned earlier are now here if they are still able to speak. If required, I can cede my time. But if they'd still be able to speak, I just wanted to mention they're here.
Okay, look, go ahead.
May I still speak?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So, hello, my name is Devin Daniels. I live on at 524 Alexander Avenue, Drexel Hill, 19026. I'm speaking here asking you to vote to approve the zero waste resolution for Upper Darby. I'm sure you've heard lots of facts and measurements from all sorts of people about why we need to move away from relying on incineration for disposing our trash. But data cannot capture what it's like standing in the shadow of the incinerator. I've marched to the Cavanta incinerator with the people of Chester and seen the visible grime it leaves on buildings and cars, smelled the way it taints the air. And that's just what can be detected with the human senses within sight of the incinerator. There's no telling just how much of our air, not just in Chester, but here in Upper Darby, is being affected. How much of the very trash we throw away each week comes back inside our lungs. You wouldn't pick up a handful of trash, light it on fire and smoke it. You wouldn't grind it up, boil it in water like coffee and drink it. I mean, maybe you would, but I wouldn't do that. But when we send our trash to the incinerator, we're having someone else grind it up, burn it, and send it into the atmosphere for us and our kids to breathe. The health and safety of everyone in Delaware County, their right to breathe, is more important than any fiscal or economic measures. The best thing we could do in Upper Darby to ensure this right to breathe is stop sending trash to be burnt in the first place. This is why a zero waste resolution is an essential first step in moving towards a healthier, more sustainable, more equitable community in Upper Darby and Delaware County. It won't undo years of damage and it won't make the incinerator disappear overnight, but it is a direct action you can take today to start that process. We need to join Swarthmore, Media, Lansdowne, and Nether Providence in passing our own zero waste resolution today. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, the residents from Chester, since we are already currently just talking about zero waste, would you like to? Councilor, are you okay if these are speakers that were supposed to speak earlier? That's true. Okay, I'm sorry. We will wait until the end of the public forum. We'll wait until the end of the public forum. Sorry, no, hey, it's my mistake. Please do not disrespect her. It was my mistake. Okay? I will take care of who's speaking when. Please do not disrespect any of the speakers.
I'm not disrespecting anybody.
I
If you were talking to me, I'm not.
I did not speak to.
Okay, my apologies.
So to the residents of Chester that are here, we'll wait until after the public forum and then I'll have you speak because we had it before the public forum, okay? Thank you. Who's our next speaker?
So now, Justin. Thank you, I apologize about that.
I can use the exercise. Good evening, everyone. My name is Justin Cohen, 7218 Brent Road, Upper Darby. I serve as the chaplain of VFW Branch 979, Archer Epler, American Legion Post 979, Archer Epler, and Disabled American Veterans 113 in Havertown, but does cover all of Delaware County. I come to you this evening as a chaplain in our community, and I would like to formally submit this request after having spoken to my district councilman, Councilman Tunis, President Wentz, Councilman Gwynn, and Township Treasurer Alberts, and submitting this idea via the mayor's request line. I'd like to request that the township grant an exemption from sewer and trash fees for those disabled veterans who are already receiving an exemption from property taxes. These worthy disabled veterans who are 100% disabled with a total and permanent determination are the most vulnerable in our community, and as such are deserving of such an exemption in the same manner in which they receive an exemption from property taxes. Enclosed, which I will have for you, are 7 letters from various veteran services organizations in the township who represents hundreds, possibly even thousands of voters who are veterans and their friends and families who support this initiative. I encourage you to find the political will to obtain the funding for the liabilities which will incur as a result of granting such an exemption, because we know where there is a will, there is a way. I look forward to working with you and the council on this issue to provide much needed economic relief to our hometown heroes who fought for our country. Respectfully submitted, Justin Cohen. And if I may submit these, if not, I will mail them to the township.
You can give it to CAO Ragioni. Just as clarification, Mr. Scott Alberts is no longer our treasurer, but David Heyman is.
My condolences.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you, Chaplain Justin. Next is Tina Hamilton.
Okay, Tina Hamilton, Covered Without Barriers, 4715 Woodland Avenue. I'm going to speak loud just in case my microphone gets turned down. Now, I just heard Upper Darby, JT coming up here and talking about the homeless, which we've been dealing with for over a year. And we get the invitation right over here, but I didn't get a phone call. For 2 weeks, I've waited to hear from somebody about helping these people down there. 2 weeks. I'm pretty frustrated. This has been a year. We've been down here. We can't get these people help. I come here and ask, to include us in here. Find out what's going on. What is this cafe? I haven't been invited to see anything about this cafe. Not a thing. But I'm fighting for these people every day. I get these people in treatment every day. I'm following up with them every day. They show up and boom, the whole world's going to change for them. Now, if I'm not going to be furious, I don't know who will be. Because we put a lot of time into this. We care. We don't have an agenda. We have people we care about down there. And they're on the streets. And they are dying. And these kids are being sold down there. And if we weren't down there, that kid would still be gone. She'd be gone to a big black man walking around trying to sell her body. And I don't care what color they are. They're selling these bodies. They're taking these little children. And they're taking them off the street. And if we're not down there, it's not going to change. We are making the change. We've asked you guys to help us and nobody reaches out. Very politely, we came up here 2 weeks ago. We have been getting shut out and I don't know why. But I'll tell you, I'm not going to deal with it. It's wrong. You guys are wrong for shutting us out who have worked our butts off for these people. We care. Tell me anybody else cares, because I know we do. And we're not getting any response. Where's my invite? Where's my invite to see what the cafe is? Where's my invite? Where's Recovery Without Barriers? Nowhere? Why? Because I like Tom McCosey? I love the man. Damn right I do. I love the man. But that has nothing to do with the people down at 69th Street. Where I stand politically has nothing to do with the people down 69th Street and what we can do for them and the things that are already there. A lot of people keep bringing up the funds that came in. I'm more concerned about what's already been established, that we can't get to them. For things that are established now, that I gave to you last week, 2 weeks ago, they're established. They're not new funds. You can hold on to your new funds for all I care. I can't even get the good stuff to them. The things that every day needs. A shower. A shower. They can't even get it. They get it in the creek. Now we got Philadelphia closed down their encampments. Where do you think they're coming? Does anybody have a clue? Tomorrow night I'll find out. I'll be there and I'll watch them all come in. We had somebody that had a heat stroke with seizures. We weren't there. We had to wait for 911 to come, the whole 9 yards. If they weren't there, this guy would have still been laying on the sidewalk probably. Probably maybe even being ignored because people just walk on by. I want to know what we're going to do about it.
Your time is up.
Of course it is.
Your time is up. I do owe you an apology. I was supposed to set up a meeting in the last 2 weeks and I failed to do that. So I do apologize. One of the concerns that I ran into is that I'm fairly certain that every single council member would like to take part in the meeting, but then it's not a meeting that decisions can be made because we would have a quorum. So quite frankly, I have to set it up in probably 3 different installments so that each council member has an opportunity to take part without hitting a quorum number. So I apologize. I have been working on it, but my snag is making sure that all council members who I know want to be a part of the conversation can be part of the conversation. I also had some things come up in my life that got in the way. So I do apologize. So it is still on the list in my brain, and I will work on it. And
Can I have 1 second? I want to know if we're having an injection site here in Upper Darby Township.
Well, your time is up.
Oh, I thought so.
Your time is up.
I thought so. I'm just checking because that's what I think is
Your
going on.
time is up.
Injection
Your time
sites
is up.
are not going to be accepted. There you go.
are
Throw
out
me
of
out.
order. Your time is up.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
You're still out of order.
Oh, whatever.
Just-
You've been out of this for a long time. Your time.
So that's great. That's wonderful. So who's next?
Thank you, Ms. Hamilton. Next is Laura Anderson.
Sorry, Madam President, a little further.
Sorry, yes.
Can I interject something here?
Sure.
To Ms. Hamilton, whose time is up, as I said before, I completely agree with your concerns about the homeless. I think it's one of the biggest needs we have in Upper Darby. The only thing is, I've got to say this to you and say it publicly. I think there was a racial remark included in what you said here. And I would just like to give you an opportunity to withdraw that part of your
No,
remarks.
it could have been any color, and I said that too. It could be any color. It just happened to be a very tall, big black man. And this little tall girl was pregnant.
For all of us, we don't think that way, and we don't do things that way.
Okay, so guys, your conversation's over.
Not going to, no, that's how you describe somebody, that's what.
You're out of order.
Yeah, can I just say one thing, before Ms. Anderson talks? So, when we did have a meeting and Paula Ann was there, the, Public Safety Committee, Public Health Committee had, and she was there. And you were also invited. I did send you an email and yeah, I did. Yeah, I did.
I had some email.
I'm not sure why you didn't get it.
Months ago.
This is
No, it wasn't a year
No
ago.
conversation.
It wasn't a year ago. It wasn't a year ago, because this is when we were talking about looking for people to, for when it was starting about the homeless campaign. And Paula Ann was there. And I did reach out to you.
Thank you.
So next is Ms. Anderson, I'm sorry about that.
My name is Laura Anderson. I live at 2403 Bond Avenue. I'm here also with Recovery Without Barriers. First, I want to say I don't think Tina's out of order. I think she's passionate. She's passionate about the people that we help down there every week. I personally help out with the meals, and I cook for upwards of 50 people every week, and the amount of people every week grows. I've grown up in Upper Darby Township my entire life, and I've watched the decline from when I was a child and we'd go down to 69th Street and shop. I would take SEPTA to school. Those are things that no longer are desirable. It's not 69th Street's not a place I want to go to shop. I don't want to have to take the trolley or the L or the bus because it is covered with people either dipping out or doing drugs actively right on the bus. So the change is really a devastating thing to see for me because I'm proud to live in Upper Darby Township. So I think when we come up here and Tina and Pauline and Letty and they get passionate about it, they're trying to express to you how important this is to not only them, but the entire community. If you take out helping the homeless and think about the people that actually have voted you in to sit on this council, to sit as mayor, they're suffering from this too. Their communities are trashed. 69th Street smells like human waste. And you expect taxpayers to live in this. I don't think that's acceptable. I think shutting down shelters, not giving them access to the programs that are supposed to be helping the homeless, it's despicable. It's unacceptable for our government to promise these programs and then not provide that. If you actually took the time, as we've asked prior, to come down and actually see this, actually come with us and serve these people, the homeless, the addicts, the people we're trying to get help, I think you'd feel a lot differently sitting up there in silence or sitting attacking Tina for being so passionate. I've literally seen them save lives on those streets, both literally and figuratively. I've seen them give Narcan to addicts. I've watched them get people into rehab. They are saving lives while you all sit here in your comfy homes, in your comfy offices.
Your time is up.
And attack Tina.
Your time is up. And as a point of reference, she was out of order because she was speaking beyond her time and speaking from the audience. And that is the only reason why I called her out of order. As she's talking right now from the audience, that makes her out of order. And that's the only reason why I called her out of order. So I just wanted to clarify that. Who's next?
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Next is Kyle McIntyre.
Kyle McIntyre, 1040 Drexel Ave. So what I want to talk about tonight is actually the Homeless Shelter Emergency Network plan that Diamond had mentioned earlier. So what we have essentially started to do is we've actually been reaching out to a couple of churches and some religious organizations. We have about a network of about 20 to 30 religious institutions because, well, they've been so generous to work with us preliminarily to help get some people off the streets and provide beds for the interim period before the shelter can get set up. Because obviously with SEPTA and the strike going on, one of the things we don't want is homeless people to end up in jail because they get pushed around or they end up in situations that they can't necessarily get themselves out of. So we've been working with some of these institutions and we've been setting up this plan. Our objective is to provide temporary beds for individuals experiencing homelessness until the new homeless shelter is built. Currently, we're looking at about 2 beds each per shelter, and we've actually been working with Delaware County Family and Community Services, which is a nonprofit, and they do a lot of great work. We've also been working with some organizations out of Philadelphia that do Narcan training and help us get those resources to homeless individuals. For these individuals, we are hoping to work with the township to provide micro grants to these religious organizations for that interim period, since it looks like it might be about 4 to 6 months until the homeless shelter can get up and running. This is our plan, and we want to try and work with the township in any way, and even other organizations, regardless about what they say about us or the fact that, you know, they have their own personal opinions. At the end of the day, we want to do our best to help the community. That's our priority. So we look forward in any way, shape, or form working with the township to hopefully implement even a hybrid or even just some type of version of this plan. Just we like to come with solutions, not just complaints. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, Councilman.
Is there a monthly or time that you guys are doing the Narcan training?
Yes, so the Narcan training, I think 31st of this month, we will be down at 69th Street doing a Narcan training. We'll also be handing out some safe sex resources to help keep people safe. And obviously, I want to say, like, to Recovery Without Border or Barriers, I know they've been doing a lot of good work down there the past year, regardless of comments from some of their members. They have been doing really good work. So definitely make sure to clue them in on anything. But thank you. That's pretty much all I have to
What
say.
was the date and time?
Yeah, August 31st,
4 p.m.
4 p.m. So that'll be down at 69th Street Terminal.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
Okay.
Next is Brian Taylor.
Good afternoon, good evening, council. I just wanted to come here to make an announcement, but after this,
Neiman.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Brian Sharif Taylor. Oop, can you hear me? Okay.
There you go.
Brian Sharif Taylor, U.S. Army, retired. My address is 7258 Lamport Road, Upper Darby, zip code 1902. The quick announcement that I wanted to make on every Wednesday for the next, I guess, for a month or so, down at 69th Street Terminal, we'll be giving, Croger Hospital will be giving out the COVID vaccine shots. It'll be the Johnson & Johnson, because a lot of times we have problems trying to get people to come back for their second treatment. I just wanted everybody to know about that. The next thing that I want to talk about, there was an issue with a young child that was missing down 69th Street. And if anyone does want to have an outreach, I think they should be briefed by the police department first. So just in case the police can't be there or the transit cops can't see what's going on, that people that's down there can actually see. And if a child is missing, someone can report it.
You need to talk to the.
I'm sorry.
Talking to Mike.
Yeah, so people can, someone can report it. The reason why, when I saw that 12-year-old, I saw my own child. And I just can't imagine a parent that's missing a child and you can't find them and somebody's constantly walking by them with it in the heat. See, I think that's about it, because I need to get to my outreach. I want everybody to have a blessed time. Thank you for actually considering putting up the POWMIA flag. I'm not really in the mood to argue with anybody, and I'm a little tired. And even consider wasting that flag on September 11th. A lot of the veterans within the area will actually appreciate that. Everyone have a good night. Talk to y'all later.
Mr. Brown, do you have any time? Wednesday? You said it'd be Wednesday?
Yes, right now the EMS team is already down 69th Street, taking care of the COVID shots. Put my name in last, so I'm usually out here by now.
All right, thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you. Okay, so, All right, so public comment, the public forum is, that's it, right? Public forum is now closed. Let's not. Yeah, okay. Can we please have the residents of Chester come up, to speak to finish up our presentation on the zero waste resolution?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kieran Warren, and I live at 2525 Sandyland Street in Chester, Pennsylvania. Before I start, I think it's safe to say that we all know that different activities and behaviors and policies and rules are made in different zip codes. And my zip code is a zip code that the residents suffer from many issues. And I'm going to talk about one of those today. So I'm here in support of the zero waste resolution. I'm out of breath, sorry. For 30 years, Upper Darby Township, which is one of the, maybe the largest municipality in the county, your trash has been burned in my hometown in Chester, okay? Covanta Incinerator is the largest incinerator in the country. And operates with the fewest pollution controls. It's Chester's largest air polluter and largest environmental violator. We suffer from environmental racism. In fact, it's one of the top air polluters in the greater Philadelphia area. We've suffered far too long. Our children have asthma, hospitalization rate 4 times the state average. We're 50% more likely to die from brain disease and 25% more likely to die from heart disease than in the rest of Delaware County. Our infant mortality rate is some of the worst in the state, 2 to 3 times the state's average. And we have the second lowest birth weight in the state. The top contributors to this health crisis is the pollution from the daily burning of trash throughout the county. It's time that we stop being part of this problem. Incineration and burying toxic ash in landfills is far worse than using landfills directly. Pennsylvania has been the largest importer of trash, pulling waste from Canada down through Puerto Rico, Oklahoma, New York, Ocean City, Maryland, other counties, other states. This is due to a glut of landfill capacity the state has permitted. The resolution asks that the county please choose less harmful option and to start working with municipalities toward waste reduction, reuse, recycling, and composting, creating many more jobs and less harm to our residents. Covanta does more than harm than good to my home and the rest of the county. Only 6 of their 105 jobs go to Chester residents, while thousands of us suffer with the assault of air pollution, odors, and noise. Thankfully, the county is already responding and is starting to look into alternatives. Supporting the resolution encourages the county to keep this up and tells them that they have your support in transitioning from incineration to waste reduction efforts while making Chester whole. I'm a resident, and it infuriates me to think that I'm living with toxic air. I have family that lives in the area where the incinerator is located. They can't go outside. There's particles that come from burning the trash that stays on the residents' patio furniture and cars. There's a horrible stench there. It stinks, it smells. It makes you sick when you go down there. And it's not just in that area. You know, the wind blows, so the toxic air is all over, and it's for the surrounding areas, Swarthmore, Brookhaven, other areas in Delaware County. So I'm just asking, I know the mayor sits on the Solid Waste Authority committee or board, to please think about this and pass this resolution. Our lives literally depend on it. My mother died from cancer. I have family members that live in that area who have cancer. We can't necessarily blame things on the Covanta, but we do know that there are numbers that tell you that smog and particle pollutants, they contribute to all types of health issues and death. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking. Thank you for coming this evening. Sorry about my confusion during the public comment.
Thank you.
It was. Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Discussers? Come on down, sir.
My name is William Jones Jr. from Chester, Pennsylvania, address 713 Villa Drive. I'm representing Chester residents concerned for quality living, also known as Circle. And the reason I'm here is also, I also like to say thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm here basically to ask for allies. I'm asking for help. We're not trying to demand any other municipality to do what we want, which I'm very much in support of the zero waste resolution. But we're asking you to consider. We're not demanding, we're not telling you shit, we're not trying to shame you. We're trying to make you understand the human cost of this. This is not just a balancing of budgets, spreadsheets. We understand the cost of governing. We understand that. We also have to understand the cost of human lives, and we're paying it. And we're paying it directly because it's sitting right in our backyards. And you're also paying it as well because in 2019, the American Lung Association gave Delaware County as a whole an F for air quality. So it's not just us. But you have to realize that when you have these opportunities to make a change, you don't take them, then there is some responsibility and accountability that you have to live with. This is not just, like I said, it's not just a financial situation. People are literally dying. My mother died of cancer. My grandmother died of cancer. My aunt died of cancer. As a young man, I suffered from epilepsy and arrhythmia. And those are all known causes from the particles and the pollutants that come out of that monstrosity that's sitting there. And it's no secret why it's been put in Chester. There's also one in Camden. They put them in poverty-stricken, underserved communities where they think nobody cares. And nobody's going to do anything about it. Well, we care. And we're asking you guys if you care and to start making steps to change that. And if you don't, then you're going to have to live with your consequence. Live with your conscience. You don't get to go home, go to sleep, and wake up and think you're a great person when you know people are suffering, people are dying, and you choose not to do nothing about it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out. Just wanted to give you a little bit of background on what Darby has already done. Okay. Since Mayor Pepper took office. She's increased the collection of our Christmas trees. It used to be only 1 to 2 weeks. It's now at least a month to 6 weeks. And we also now are in the longest time period for yard waste collection. It happens from like April 15th through November around Thanksgiving. So every week with our recycling, we put out yard waste. This is one of the ways to reduce the amount of weight and things that are going into to be burned. Granted, shrubbery and so forth is not something that is toxic to be burned, but it could be reburned, right? And so we've been talking about possibly doing some ways to do a composting program. So we appreciate all of you coming out and sharing with us your concerns and what you all encounter in your community as a result of this plan and the burning of the trash. So I just want to thank you for coming.
Thank you for taking those necessary steps. If all the different municipalities all start doing these things, then it'll start to be commonplace instead of the anomaly, and it'll start to be like smoking indoors. These incinerators got to be looked as outdated and archaic as smoking inside, because that's how crazy and that's how dangerous it is.
Right.
So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Does any council members have any questions or concerns for our last two speakers? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Great. All right, so next up, we have the Honorable Mayor Barbara Pepper.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, is this working?
Yeah. Okay.
I have a couple updates. This evening, I'm asking council to support two resolutions regarding the recreational plans for Upper Darby. Thanks to Delaware County Council for offering the opportunity to preserve green space in our community through the Open Space and Recreation Municipal Grant Program. Our goal is to apply for a grant to create a master plan for all township parks, public spaces, and open space, as well as to acquire a grant to help fund the completion of the Darby Creek Trail. I'm happy to report that we are moving forward with plans for the new Upper Darby Community Center. Congresswoman Mary D. Scanlon visited the site recently with her CAO to discuss the project. And we have officially been awarded the bid. We've officially awarded the bid for the design of the center to JMT. And earlier this week, we broke ground on another municipal project across the street at the parking lot number 1 in preparation for a redevelopment project there. On a related note, the Upper Darby Welcome Center, which is currently located at 7,000 Walnut Street and is the site for the new community center. The Welcome Center is moving to the Watkins Senior Center, located at 326 Watkins Avenue in Upper Darby on Monday, August 30th. Starting next week, the Tower Theater will host an event for the first time since early 2020. The virtual Van Gogh immersive experience is set to open on Thursday, August 26th, and will run 6 days a week through February 2022. We are excited to welcome this internationally renowned exhibit to 69th Street. Together with Live Nation, I invite and encourage everyone who comes to enjoy the exhibit to shop, dine, and explore everything that Upper Darby has to offer. At this time, we are seeking sponsors, vendors, and performers for the 2021 Upper Darby International Festival, which will take place on Saturday, October 2nd. Please email festival@upperdarby.org for more information, and be sure to follow the festival's Facebook page at www.facebook.com/UDINT Festival for future updates. Currently, there is one opening on the Upper Darby Historic Commission, as well as a couple on the library board. Please send an email with a cover letter and a copy of your resume to mayor@upperdarby.org if you are interested in serving on one of these entities. As the number of COVID-19 cases continue to rise locally, getting vaccinated remains vitally important. We do have some statistics from a couple of zip codes in Upper Darby Township that residents had inquired about over the last couple of meetings. So, as of August 13th, residents in the 19026 zip code have a 70.2% vaccination rate, and residents in the 19082 zip code have a 60.5% vaccination rate. But we also have, there's 3 other zip codes in Upper Darby, so this isn't complete. And the zip codes also, they're not limited to Upper Darby Township. Haverford Township is the 126, and Millbourne, and there might be another one in the 082 zip code. We are headed in the right direction, but we must keep moving forward in the fight against this virus. To find a vaccine location, please call 484-276-2100 or visit www.deltapa.gov/vax. For resources about vaccine hesitancy, please visit factsoverfiction.info. Lastly, I'd like to read a proclamation in recognition of International Overdose Awareness Day, which is Tuesday, August 31st. Whereas we recognize the purpose of International Overdose Awareness Day as a way to remember our loved ones lost to overdoses and ending the stigma of drug-related deaths. And whereas the Upper Darby community affirms and acknowledges the harm and hardship caused by drug overdoses. And whereas we resolve to work harder to reduce the number of overdoses in our community, Drug overdoses claimed the lives of hundreds of residents of Delaware County, Pennsylvania in 2020, with countless additional lives forever changed. And whereas we affirm that the people who are affected by the disease of addiction and drug overdoses are our sons and daughters, our mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, and our friends and fellow residents, and that they are deserving of our love, compassion, and support. Now therefore I, Barbara Ann Tepper, Mayor of Upper Darby, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, August 31st, 2021 as International Overdose Awareness Day in Upper Darby, and encourage the entire community to recognize and participate in this observance. So thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Next, I just wanted to thank everyone who came out to the cleanup that happened at the Youth Cemetery on August 8th. There is going to be another one on another cleanup time on the 22nd from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's on Lansdowne Avenue across from the public storage. Our fire department, Highland Park Fire Department came out and all the other volunteers that came out. We reclaimed a whole lot of graves and headstones that had not been visible for a long time. And there's a lot more to do there. So, and we're trying to get it done in time for the Jewish holidays that begin on Labor Day, so that loved ones can come and find their family members that are buried in the cemetery. So please feel free to come out and join us on August 22nd. So next up, we have Treasurer Heyman's report.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, Council. Mayor Kemper. So this report summarizes the Township's financial condition as of July 31st, 2021. It reviews revenues and expenses for the month, any cash balances, and for the performance comparison to July 31st, 2021. Our operating budget consists of 4 governmental funds: the general fund, the sewer fund, the highway fund, and the sinking fund. Upper Darby Township's operating cash balance on July 1st was $38,828,171. On July 31st, our operating funds cash balance was $32,656,455, a $6,171,716 decrease for the month. In addition to the operating funds balance, we received $20,880,969.50 of American Rescue Plan funds on July 19th. My educational presentation following these remarks provide an explanation of the source and eligible uses of these funds. July revenues totaled $2,308,990 against expenses of $8,644,548, resulting in a $6,335,557 deficit for the month. So looking at what I'm calling this a headline number, we can decompose that to actually explain where this is all coming from. The July 2021 budget forecasted a $4,254,544 deficit, leaving a further deficit of $2,081,013. Of this, $1,075,648 is attributed to a paving project that is fully funded and recoverable through identified sources. Of the remaining $1,005,365, $770,941 is explained by the timing of property and business tax collections. We've discussed this in each of my reports about the timing of reporting on a cash basis property tax collections. And furthermore, $219,654 is attributed to seasonal salary expenses for the summer stage employees that's expected to be recovered through ticket receipts. Through the remainder of the year, we project operating revenue shortfall of $1,012,638 and expenses to exceed budget by $2,014,520, leaving a projected tentative annual spending deficit of $3,027,158. The deficit, I'm calling it tentative because we are reporting on a cash basis. As you may recall from a prior presentation on accrual accounting, if we were reporting on an accrual basis, this deficit would be lower. A continued analysis of the COVID-19 impact to our 2020 and 2021 revenue expenses is ongoing. We may find that our deficit is a result of the COVID-19 health emergency, covered in part or in total by the American Rescue Plan funds that we're going to discuss in just a moment. As of July 31st, 2021, with 58% of the year in the books, we've collected 88.5% of budgeted revenue, and we've expended 62.2% of anticipated expenses. And that concludes that part of our report. The second part of my report is this month's presentation, and we're going to talk about these coronavirus recovery funds. It gets thrown around a bit, so I thought it would be a good idea to actually understand how they work. So within this presentation, there's three subtopics. We're going to talk about the American Rescue Plan Act as it pertains to local governments, rules for the use of coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, and explain what Upper Darby Township has received and what we expect to receive in the future. The Economic Rescue Plan Act of 2021, which was signed into law on March 11th, 2021, includes state and local funds to help with the effects of coronavirus on our revenues and expenses. It included $350 billion to aid states, cities, tribal governments, and U.S. territories. The funds are designated to help replace lost tax revenue and offset increased expenses due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we're going to generally refer to these funds as ARC funds because it's easy to say and it sounds good. All right. There are 5 eligible uses for these funds, and this came out in the final regulations that were published on May 17th. These 5 eligible uses are to support public health expenditures by funding COVID-19 mitigation efforts, medical expenses, behavioral health care, and certain public health and safety staff. To respond to the public health emergency or its negative economic impacts, including assistance to households, small businesses, and nonprofits, or to aid impacted industries such as tourism, travel, and hospitality. To respond to workers performing essential work during the COVID-19 public health emergency by providing premium pay to eligible workers. To replace lost revenue due to the COVID-19 public health emergency. And lastly, to make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. So this is generally the words that are used in those final regulations and on the fact sheet that's published on the GovInfo site. Equally important is to understand what the funds cannot be used for. They may not be deposited into any pension fund. They may not directly or indirectly offset a reduction in the net tax revenue resulting from a change in law, regulation, or administrative interpretation. Eligible uses of funds do not include contributions to rainy day funds, financial reserves, or similar funds. Similarly, the eligible use category would not include payment of interest or principal on outstanding debt instruments, including tax anticipation notes. Looking at the numbers, Pennsylvania received just about $7.3 billion. Delaware County, about $110 million, and Upper Darby Township was allotted $41,760,000. On July 19th, 2021, we received $20,880,969.50. We expect the second tranche in July of 22, which would be the other $20 million. These funds are being booked as a liability until they're released for use. As noted in the July 2021 Treasurer's Report to Council, preliminary calculations suggest that we qualify to use at this time $12,925,079 of the ARC funds due to lost revenue, but this is subject to change through additional analysis that's ongoing. So these are preliminary figures. That's it.
Great, thank you very much. Does anyone from council have any questions? Okay. I see Councilman Wagner and Grant and Councilman Tudor. Okay, so Councilman Wagner, go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Heyman. Set aside the funds that we've just received from the federal government. Without regard to that, without reference to that. Thank you, sir. I'm not really all that concerned about where we are month to month because that does change and vary and goes up and down. Where do you really think we're going to be at the end of the year without regard to the American Recovery Plan?
Without regard to the American Recovery Plan, we believe that our cash balance moving into next year is going to be somewhere around $3.5 million.
Where was it last year?
About $5 million.
Looking at your presentation, doesn't have page numbers on it, which always drives me crazy.
Sorry about that. It was intended to be a PowerPoint presentation, but yeah.
On what I count to be the fourth page, you talk about the 5 eligible uses, and we had a lot of discussion here tonight about the crisis that our township and lots of others face with respect to the homeless. Do you believe that aid to the homeless fits within any of these 5 paragraphs? And I'm suggesting maybe 2 and 4.
I don't know. I don't know well enough to answer that question. I think that's, this is as specific as this tries to be, it leaves a lot of gray area. The regulations provide provide guidance and equations, and we're just, as I understand, in the preliminary steps of figuring out, based on our revenue impact and our expense impact, what we're going to be eligible to use it for. I think I'd like to defer that to the administration as to any further examination of these other uses, because I don't know.
So I'm not accusing you of ducking.
No,
but I think you're ducking my question. I'm just going to make the suggestion, it's nothing but a suggestion, that that particular use could fit within a description, for instance, in paragraph 2, to respond to the public health emergency or its negative economic impacts. Certainly, the homeless and their plight would fit within that, in my personal opinion. Paragraph 4 speaks of for the provisions of government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue due to the COVID-19 public health emergency. And again, I'm submitting that paragraph and its language, which comes out of the statute, I believe, is broad enough to encompass that. So I just offer that to the administration as a suggestion that to be kept very, very much so in mind when we're deciding where these funds are going. Thanks again, Mr. Henry.
Great, and Councilman Smith?
Yeah, when you started to go through some of the costing items, you said about the paving, cost of it, do we have a receivable set up for?
Are you using your
recovery?
microphone?
Sorry. Do you have a receivable set up?
You have to actually use the microphone,
It's on.
but you have to have, you have a mask. So you need to actually talk into the mic.
Do you have a receivable set up to offset that?
Yes.
And from PICO or what?
I believe, and again, and I would ask for me to be fact checked on this one. I believe it's part of a HUD grant.
So just the HUD grant
for the paving piece. It was to do with paving for handicap access on sidewalks or something.
There's, yeah, sure. In fairness to Treasurer Heyman, some of these questions are, policy questions, not quite treasurer questions. So, there's CDBG money, that's HUD money that goes for, handicap curb cuts, curb ramps, accessibility. And then there's also liquid fuels reimbursement for the paving. And remember, part of the reason for the lag is the 2020 paving program was not completed. So we're actually still in the process of completing the 2020 paving program and the 2021 paving program. So that's some of the reason why there's a lag in the expenditure of money that makes it look as if the monthly numbers are more off this number than they otherwise would be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Where is the other side of it?
So
Are we
ask the right
getting-
person.
are we getting anything from PICO and the other groups that are doing?
Absolutely. The fee in lieu of paving from the utility companies is a much smaller dollar amount than the liquid fuels reimbursement or the CDBG dollar amount. But yes, we are continuing to work with PICO and Aqua through the paving program to get those fees to offset costs to the paving program.
Thank you.
And then, so just to jump back to Councilman Wagner quickly, absolutely the right questions about what are and are not eligible expenses for Treasurer Heyman, not necessarily the right person to answer. But the administration agrees with you about number 2 and number 4, and we've been trying to figure it out. We went to the Municipal League, we went to the Delaware County Council of Governments, we've talked to PFM and PNC, we've talked directly to HUD and Treasury and DCED. Everybody is chomping at the bit for the regulations to be fleshed out with specificity about what will and will not qualify. So Hayden can now sound like I'm the one dodging the question. We are very actively trying to get specific answers to what will and will not be eligible. But we share your interpretation with regard to homelessness mitigation.
And I appreciate that, I really do. It's a very real concern because, and I bet our solicitor would back me up on this, if we spend it in a way that is arguably outside those limitations, probably going to get challenged by somebody. And then that gets expensive and very time consuming and so on. So anyway, it's an important issue.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or concerns?
Yeah, I do. On your last page of your presentation, you say the preliminary calculations suggest that we qualify for use for, for 12.9 million of the ARP fund. Yeah, how is that figured?
Again, yeah, I have to defer you to the administration to calculate that number. I'm just reporting.
Sure, yeah, no worries. Frankly, the whole process is a little confusing. The wording is a little bit confusing. Basically what they did was they gave you a standard multiplier for projected revenue gain. So you took your 2019 revenue and said, what if you increase revenue 4.1% every year, right? So not your actual revenue gain, but it's a 4.1% increase year over year. And you calculate your revenue loss based on that number, that 4.1% increase. And that's how you come up with $12+ million over the next 2 years. It's not an actual loss, it's a loss against this projected 4.1% increase. And what that $12+ million number does is that's money that we're actually able to spend in unrestricted way. Of the 40 million, we can spend 12 million with fewer restrictions, not necessarily in the 5 categories.
So this is over the whole period of time, there would be this 12 million that would basically just be a loss of projected expenses or income.
Correct. And then the last further complicating piece is that's the calculation as of today, right? Depending on what our actual revenue comes in at will depend on what the number actually settles at against that 4.1. Does that make sense?
Okay, so if were we to hypothetically have an expenditure for this 12.9 million and it were spent, and then 2 years from now, it was determined that that number was greater than what was actually supposed to be allocated, that number could go down?
Yes.
Okay.
That'd be a bad situation that we're trying to avoid, if I understand it correctly. Yes.
That sounds like a bad situation.
Yeah, it is possible.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Anybody else? Can we get a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
So,
Second. I heard, like, Heyman, Silva? Yeah. Okay. Silva. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the treasurer's report, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say your name. Ayes have it. Thank you. Great, so next up, we have the Finance and Appropriations Committee. Co-chairs Gwynn Jr. and Silva, members Blackwell and Burt. We have resolution 36-21, Solicitor Report. Can you please give us reading?
Thank you, President Lewis. This is a resolution authorizing application to the Delaware County Municipal Grant Program for the funding of the Darby Creek Trail Project. Whereas the municipality of the Township of Darby, Delaware County, Pennsylvania desires to participate in the Delaware County Open Space Greenways Municipal Grant Program in order to fund the Darby Creek Trail. Whereas the municipality will have available any and all additional funding to complete this project. Now therefore be resolved that one, that the municipality of Upper Darby, Delaware County, Pennsylvania hereby approves the filing of an application for Delaware County's Municipal Grant Program Assistance. And two, that Vincent Brundian, Chief Administrative Officer / Mayor is hereby authorized and directed to execute and file the appropriate forms with the Delaware County Government Department.
Okay, thank you. Can we get a motion to approve resolution 36-21?
Some moved.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions or concerns on this resolution? Councilman Lynch?
I had a question. Titling for the Intransiano, I agree, as the Chief Administrative Officer. The other communication there about the Deputy Mayor. I just had a question.
Right, this wasn't right, but in the charter, it was as the executive chief administrative officer, so definitely mayor.
No, it's part of the normal charter, it's mentioned as part of the job description for the chief administrative officer.
Well, right, administrative officer deputy to the mayor, which is different than deputy mayor. Exactly. Great. Any other questions or concerns on this resolution? Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, can we, all those in favor of passing resolution 36-21 as amended, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, state your name, and council member Wagner and oh, that's a good question.
We do.
He said,
And we have 7, we have a quorum. To step away, I believe for the restroom at that moment, so. Anyone opposed, say your name. The ayes have it. Do you support the resolution?
Yes.
Okay. Great, I added you in. Yeah, great. So the resolution passes as amended. Great, so next up, we have Resolution 38-21. Solicitor Report, can you give us a brief reading of this resolution?
This is a resolution authorizing the application to the Delaware County Municipal Grant Program for the funding of. I would like to make an amendment that the caption is actually incorrect. This is, if you see in the third whereas, there is the regarding Township Parks and Open Space Master Plan. This is that resolution. And please note that there is a, in the agenda, that is this typo, so it is supposed to be the regarding Township Parks and Open Space Master Plan. That is the title of the resolution. Thank you. Whereas the municipality.
Quick question, being the changes in the state law related to agendas, and then this was posted. Is this an urgent request? This needs to go in this evening. The reason being is the General Assembly changed state law as postings of agendas. So if it doesn't review that topic, the council votes on it, it's null and void. So there are three categories under the new General Assembly criteria. One of them being essentially an exigent circumstance kind of issue. To go ahead and vote on this. So there would have to be a vote to add that to the agenda and then a vote on the underlying issue. And I'm sorry to bring that up, but this is a new change in state law. We're dealing with this in other places. Then after that, it needs to be posted on our public website.
Okay. So this is something that we do need right away, right, for the grant application?
I think this is tied to, there's some, I don't know, Vince, if you know when the applications are due, sometimes it's early September, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think they're due at the month.
September 13th.
Oh, September 13th. Okay.
So we could in theory vote on it on the September 1st meeting?
Michael, will that work, September 1st, if we vote on it?
Yeah, we'll be fine. If we have to postpone that one, that's fine. And I'm sorry to be a stickler, but it's a new change in state law, and it's fine.
No,
Okay, and then if we can also make the change in the, number 2 that we made. Great. So yes, can we get a motion to table, resolution 3821?
Like to make a motion, David.
So we have Lynn and. Okay, any other questions or concerns on tabling this? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say your name. Ayes have it. Thank you for that clarification. Great. So next up, we have the Planning, Zoning, and Building Code Committee, co-chairs Glenn Jr. and Phillips, members Councilman Barnett and Tunis Jr. Can we get a brief on ordinance number 3102 prior to welcome?
Sure. Ordinance 3102, this went over significantly at our committee meeting. This related to registry for vacant properties and the repealing of all inconsistent ordinances. There is definitions of applicable codes, enforcement officer, evidence of vacancy, foreclosed real property, foreclosure or foreclosure action, mortgage, owner, property manager, real property, registrable property, registry, semi-annual registration, utilities and services, vacant or vacant property owner. Section 2 talks about the establishment of the registry pursuant to provisions of the part. Township shall establish a registry cataloging each abandoned property within the township, containing the information required within. Section 3 deals more with the registration of foreclosed real property. There's provisions for mortgage foreclosed properties and talks about the procedure there. It also talks about Section 4, the inspection and registration of real property that is not subject to a mortgage and foreclosure. Then there is Section 5 related to fees for this. Section 6, enforcement and penalties, maintenance requirements, inspections for violations, and the effective date and signatures. I know this was discussed significantly at the committee meeting. If anybody would like some more information or go more in depth, I'd be happy to do that.
Great, thank you. At this point in time, I'd like to open the floor for the public hearing for ordinance number 3102. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this ordinance? Please come forward to the mic, state your name and your address. Anyone? Anywhere?
Kyle McIntyre, 1040 Drexel Ave. I think this is a great ordinance. It's something that I think has been a long time coming. Go for it. Let's start registering the vacant properties so we can start assessing them and hopefully getting people living in them one day. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Great, seeing none, at this point in time, the hearing is closed. So can we get a motion to approve ordinance number 3102? Can we get a motion?
So,
Win? Are there any questions or concerns on this ordinance from council or administration?
I'd just like to say, if I could, yes, in support of this ordinance, I think this is an important, this would be an important step because one of the number one concerns I hear talking to residents is properties not being kept up. And I think this will help us curb that issue. Specifically, it's Upper Darby, a lot of these residents are very live close to one another. And, you know, when somebody's grass is 4 feet high, it can get, it makes it difficult to, you know, it's just disappointing, to be honest with you. So it's, so yeah, I think this is great. I'm glad that we're doing this. And I urge all my colleagues to vote yes on that.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Any questions or concerns or comments? Okay, I agree with Councilman Silva. It is one of the largest complaints that we get, and this gives our township the tools they need to track down these owners and help. Thank you. So can we get a roll call? Okay. Councilor Tunis?
Yes.
Councilor Phillips is a yes. Councilor Silver?
Yes.
Councilor Blackwell? Yes. Councilor Wood?
yes.
Councilor Burke?
Yes.
Councilor Siddiq?
Yes.
Councilor Ferralia and Councilor Barnett is excused. Councilor Wagner?
Yes.
Councilor President Wicks?
Yes. Thank you. So the ordinance is approved. Great. So next up, we have Municipal Services Licensing and Public Works Committee, co-chairs Siddiq and Tunis Jr., members Wagner and Burke. Solicitor Richardson, can you give us a brief on ordinance number 3103?
Thank you, Treasurer. This is a ordinance that's providing a visa with the Department of License and Inspection. This has been discussed at length since the meeting in February, where the fee schedule has been reformatted and we looked at. It covers fees related to streets and rights of way, building permits, resale, refinance, certificate fees, contractor's license and renewal. It also has fees for zoning, abatement for real property, fire safety inspections, food license and inspections, annual rental license application, the vacant property license application, miscellaneous fees. And there's the effective date that's effective. So it's
Great, thank you. At this point in time, I'd like to open the public hearing for ordinance number 3103. Is there anyone from the public that would like to come forward and speak on behalf of this ordinance? If so, please state your name and your address. Come on down.
Good evening, Justin Cohen, 7218 Brent Road. I would request that in the formulation of the fee schedule, that we would take into consideration that any fees would not be burdensome to new businesses that would want to come into the township, and to not utilize this mechanism to generate income to offset any other monies in the general budget, so that we have a pro-business angle to our formulation process.
Right, so actually, none of our fees are, all of our fees are designed to only cover the cost.
So everything's net zero.
Yes, all the
Fabulous.
fees that we can apply is only to cover the cost of the processing, if there are inspections involved, if a backhoe has to come out, and all those fees are just for what it costs to pay the employees, have the equipment, pay the processing fee, processing whatever the paperwork is, the inspection, and so forth. There is no profit being made off of the fees. It's just that in the past, there were not fees for everything that the township did, so the township incurred a burden, which then was a burden that was passed on to the taxpayers. So this is an attempt to organize all the fees into one ordinance, so that it can be checked on an annual basis, and to make sure that all the inspections and everything that the township does has a fee related to it, so that the cost does not become a burden to the taxpayers.
So you would say that would still be pro-business?
Correct.
It would not be burdensome to business?
No, it's intended to just pay for the cost of whatever the permit is or whatever. It's not a money maker.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else from the public would like to speak on this ordinance? Anyone else? Anyone? Okay, seeing none, I deem this hearing on ordinance number 3103 now closed. Can we get a motion to approve ordinance number 3103?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Quinn? And Blackwell? Are there any questions or concerns from council?
Yes.
Councilman Wagner?
I know we've discussed this before. I'm still not satisfied with a couple of aspects of it. I do note that this ordinance has its pages numbered, and I congratulate the administration. Under section 1B1, the sanitary sewer connection. Could someone just explain that to me a little more? $1,000, is going to generate a lot of objection from our residents, and I'd like to know how to explain it.
It's in the.
On page 2.
It's in the-
Maybe I'm reading it wrong.
community connections with the community development. Not for, not for existing connections.
Well, what I'm perhaps confused about, and please correct me if I'm wrong. If a person buys an existing house, does this in any way affect them? Does not. Okay, so this is only for new construction. Okay. All right, well, that answers that question for me. Other than that, without going through them all, it's my understanding the administration is representing to us and to the public that these are, I think the term was used, net zero, the fees in here. In other words, this is what it costs the township, for example, to send out a backup if that's necessary. Because that's really an important aspect of being able to explain this to our residents who feel that they're overtaxed as it is.
These are, all of these, with the exception of the one, I believe one, are currently on the books in Upper Darby Township. By law, fees in the township should approximate the cost of implementation. If they are not, they're an illegal tax as defined by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and Pennsylvania Constitution. I advise Upper Darby and all our clients to evaluate fees, usually on a yearly basis. Normally, they go through this fee list. They talk to department heads. Department heads make sure, look, it's in order, and they can approximate as such if something's out of whack. Those are adjusted. So I believe Mr. Rangione and the CEO and his department heads have done this for this.
Okay.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Yeah, did you want to respond?
Sure, sorry about that. Yes, that's correct. Mr. Solicitor and Councilman Wagner. I think the ongoing year-over-year goal is to continually evaluate and make sure that the fees are revenue neutral in that way. Year one, step one, getting them all in one place, putting them together and going through them. And we'll continue to refine it on a year-over-year basis. I think that's an important part of this process.
And as a follow-up, thank you for that. As a follow-up, what about the sorry, thank you. What about the rubbish fee? I looked for it and didn't find it in here, but I probably missed it. Is it in here or is that covered elsewhere?
So on page 8.
On page 8.
So we should be, we did that because
Yes,
we paid for it.
Solicitor,
Well, because we went.
actually, Councilman Judge, you don't have the mic.
Sorry.
Yes, Council Wagner, in section 11B. It's a rubbish and refuse collection license.
Yeah.
Forgive the patient.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, anyone else have any questions?
I have a question.
Councilman Silva.
And this ordinance is amendable by resolution? No. It is not amendable. No, it's not by ordinance. Because the Upper Darby Charter and Home Rule and an administrative code require it as such. Other municipalities, it's amendable by resolution. Our laws are a little different. Okay, so what would happen is upon review annually. You pass an ordinance, we would just pass it. Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, that was really important. Thank you for that clarification. Anyone else have any questions or concerns on this ordinance? Okay, seeing none, can we get a roll call vote with respect to any votes?
Councilor Tunis,
Yes.
Councilor Villanueva, Councilor Silver,
Yes.
Councilor Blackwell. Yes. Councilor White,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Sadiq,
Yes.
Councilor Ferrari and Lynette are excused. Councilor Wagner,
Yes.
Council President Wade.
Yes, okay, great, thank you. for posting it. Great, so next up, we have Public Health and Environmental Affairs Committee, co-chairs Tunis Jr. and Silva, members Phillips and Sadiq. Solicitor Richardson, can you give us a brief on resolution 25-24?
You can make changes to it.
Okay.
Thank you. This is a resolution of Darby Township, Illinois County, Pennsylvania, adopting the zero waste hierarchy and urging countywide transition to zero waste. The Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, reported that in 2020, Delaware County sent 380,223 tons of waste, with including trash from Upper Darby Township to be burned at the Covanta, Delaware County Trash Incinerator, Covanta Incinerator, located in the city of Chester. Whereas the Zero Waste International Alliance defines zero waste as the conservation of all resources by means of responsible production, consumption, reuse, and recovery of products, packaging, and materials without burning and with no discharges to land, water, or air that threaten the environment or human health. Whereas waste incineration, waste to fuel schemes, and waste deregulation are considered unacceptable in the zero waste system. Whereas Covanta, Delaware Valley has the poorest air pollution controls of any trash incinerator in the nation and lacks any controls for nitrogen oxides, including highly toxic mercury and dioxins. Whereas the county landfill will last longer and be less toxic if the county stops importing trash from 7 states and handles its own waste, landfill only what is left after reducing waste through sustainable zero waste methods. Whereas Delaware County's current contract with Covanta runs through April 30th, 2022, and requires that the county provide a minimum of 300,000 tons of waste per year or pay for their waste shortfall fee. This penalizes the county if it succeeds in reducing waste by more than 21% of current levels, and could cost the county millions of dollars a year if any zero waste strategies were adopted. Therefore, be it resolved by the Township of Upper Darby Township Council of Upper Darby Township, that the Township Council formally urges Delaware County Council and Delaware County Solid Waste Authority to ensure that the county no longer incinerates its waste after the current Covanta incineration contract expires. The next paragraph has been removed. Be it further resolved that the Township Council of Upper Darby Township formally urges Delaware County Council to retain zero waste experts to develop a countywide zero waste plan for the county to provide support in municipalities transitioning to safe as you throw, curbside, compost, and collection, and other food waste production strategies. So it's
Great, thank you very much for the reading. Can we get a motion to approve resolution 25-21?
Would you make a motion?
Seconded.
Are there any questions or concerns on this resolution?
Yes.
Councilman Wagner?
I have two concerns about this resolution. I find myself in general sympathy with the reasons set forth as to why we ought to make this a goal for the future, but this asks the county to discontinue the current method of disposing of waste and incinerating it in about 8 months without knowing what the alternatives to that are, without having those alternatives in place. I think it's completely impractical. I really do. But on top of that, this is not our decision. It's up to the county council in general. I think this council ought to deal with the things that it is empowered to act upon, and resolutions of this kind that are not within our power, I think in general are just a bad idea. So I don't think we should do this.
Okay, anyone else? Councilman Tunis?
Yeah, I just have a difference of opinion. This resolution, like many others involved, before it lets residents know how we feel about this issue and what we as council are asking those above us to do. In the past, we've done a resolution on a rental and mortgage moratorium. So I think this is very appropriate. I believe I'm going to ask all my colleagues to vote in favor of this. We heard from the residents in Chester speak today. We heard numerous people come, numerous weeks. This mayor has given us more than one presentation in public and So this is something that we really have to let residents know how we feel about. So I'm just gonna ask all my colleagues to please, let's pass this resolution, let the county know our position on this.
Great, thank you very much. Any other council members?
I do. Actually, I have another difference of opinion, for, my colleague, Mr. Wagner. I don't believe this is actually something we can't do anything about. I think the amount of waste that we make and how we handle that waste is entirely within the control of this municipality to some degree and the residents of the township, by the way we conduct ourselves and the way we handle these things. This is not something that we can, we should shrug our shoulders and say, there's nothing we can do. That's simply not the case. So were we to be able to reduce waste by 21%, we would perhaps be in violation of this contract. That would prohibit us from taking more aggressive measures to either compost, to save as we throw, to institute a lot of these programs that could exist. And there are other solutions for sorting trash. Simply burning trash is not, frankly, it is a bit archaic and it's frankly not acceptable. I am not entirely unaware of the plight. I actually work next to the Cavanta factory. So I don't, but maybe I have more a secret agenda. But the reality is you can hear that thing and you can smell it. And everyone, at the end of the day, I go home. But the people that live there, they are home. That's home. That's not right. And I don't want to be a part of that. So this isn't a time I'm going to, we have passed a lot of resolutions that frankly, you're right. We're kind of pie in the sky, a little bit of the chasing of rainbow or what have you. We asked the president to step down on January 6th. We asked the post office to be funded forever. We have no control over these things. That's completely true. We do have control over how much we throw away and where it should go. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I just?
Councilman Wagner?
That's not what this accomplishes. This doesn't make Upper Darby produce less trash. And much more than that, it asks the county to discontinue its current method of burning trash in 8 months. Is that a practical reality? Of course not. That's not going to happen in 8 months. So if we're going to stop burning trash 8 months from now, what are we going to do? And I asked that. So far, I haven't heard an answer to it. I would love for us to find a really good, practical solution to that, but I don't think we're there yet, is all I'm saying. And to pass this resolution suggests that we are when apparently we're not.
Okay, actually, I think it has been mentioned that the trash could go to the county's landfill in Burke County. And that they're actually in the process of revamping the landfill so that it can last for another 10 years. And if it actually took the trash from Delaware County, that's owned by Delaware County, and we actually put our trash in it, then that is another avenue. We own it, we should be putting our trash in.
Is that what's going to happen?
I'm just saying that that's a viable option. That is there. We already own it. So we could actually just use it and not put as much toxic. The biggest problem is that we're putting toxic ash in it and making it an extremely toxic landfill versus if we just took the trash that we currently have, bypass the burning stage, put the trash in the landfill, then that extreme toxic ash would not be existing. And the trash that's there would just break down and not be as extremely toxic as the ash that we continually to put in there. So there is a viable option. We have it, we own it, we can actually use it for our own trash.
Then why aren't we asking the county to agree upon that, decide that that's their option, and announce that publicly and discuss it publicly? All this does is ask them to discontinue a contract that exists without specifying or even talking about what the alternatives are going to be. So I just don't understand why we're doing it.
Okay, anyone else with questions or concerns? Councilman Glenn.
I was trying to follow Tom's logic, but I have a problem because it says it right here in several of the whereas items what we could do, and that includes taking it to the landfill. So there is some explanation of what we can do.
Am I, to understand that's been decided upon and that's what's going to be
It's a
done? Or
recommendation.
those are merely hypotheticals?
It is a recommendation.
Right, so the resolution is a recommendation of what can be done and what we should do.
Madam President,
Yes, please.
can I call the motion, please?
Sure can. So we have, call the question. Sorry, I need to page. To call the question, we have Ms. Phillips. It's me. And Mr. Tino. All those in favor of calling the question, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say your name. Okay, question is called. So at this point in time, can we get a motion to approve, or we already have, yeah, we have a motion to approve. All those in favor of approving resolution 25-21, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say your name.
No, Tom Wagner.
Okay, right there. Everyone else is a yes. So this resolution passes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for the discussions. Thank you to all of our presenters that have come over the last few months and the current presenters that are here today to give us all the information you have on the effects of the burning of our trash. And hopefully this will help facilitate other municipalities to move forward with this resolution. So thank you all very much. Okay. So next up, we have Public Safety Committee, Co-Chairs Burke and Blackwell, members Silva and Tunis Jr. Can we get a brief on resolution 37-24?
Sure. Ordinance 1156 is hereby amended by adding section 1 to the following. Installing stop signs at the following location on the 5100 block of West Lee Drive in both directions at the intersection of the 500 block of 7 Oaks Drive. Resolved this day in council chambers.
That was fast. Great. Sorry, I was taking notes. Wonderful. Can we get a motion to approve resolution 37-21? After, we have to make. Okay, so I heard Phillips and Tunis.
Sorry.
Any questions or concerns? Councilman Jim?
I just want to know what district.
Two.
Two. Yeah. Yes. Yep.
Please by calling the field.
Yes. Yes. Okay, any other questions or concerns?
Make sure you stop.
Pull your mask up. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say your name. Ayes have it. I'm sure Councilman Moralia will be very pleased that he passed it. On her behalf. Great. So at this point in time, we get to move on to our solicitor report.
Thank you very much, President Lynch. Normally, I go through some of the matters that our office works on over the course of the 2 weeks that between meetings. But what I'm going to do is, because the new Sunshine Act changes came up tonight, I'm going to give a summary of those so council understands them. And I know that's new. If you haven't had an opportunity to attend any of the trainings, the municipal league or anything like that, just so you understand that, you can read about it. In this last legislative session, one of the big pushes from the local government committee was new agenda publishing requirements. So prior to the amendment to Act 65, the Sunshine Act only required that the notice of a public meeting be given. Now Upper Darby and every other agency in the Commonwealth is required to post meeting agendas on their websites at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. Many places are already doing this, such as us and others, but now it's a requirement. The agenda is required to contain a certain listing of each matter that will or may be on the subject of a deliberation or official vote at the meeting. In addition to posting the agenda on Upper Darby's website, the agenda shall be physically posted at the main business office and the physical location of the meeting. Copies of the agenda shall also be available for the attendees of the meeting. So now, if something is not on the agenda, what's your ability to amend the agenda? If an item is not on the agenda 24 hours prior to the meeting and posted, Upper Darby Township's council ability to add is limited and requires certain steps to be taken. First, the Sunshine Act amendments limit the types of matters that may be deliberated and voted on if not on the agenda. They are: 1, to address real or potential emergency that involves a clear and present danger to life or property. 2, to address a matter of business that only arose and was brought to the township's attention within 24 hours of the meeting, and that the matter is de minimis or small in nature. Not exactly defined, so I guess that will be a subject of litigation in the future. In nature, and does not involve the expenditure of funds or enter into a contractor agreement. Or C, to address a matter raised during the meeting by a resident taxpayer. If the case, the township may: 1, refer the item to staff for the purpose of researching the matter for inclusion in a future meeting, usually kind of what's on. Or 2, if the de minimis does not involve the expenditure of funds or entering into a contractor agreement, the board may take action on the matter at the meeting. So required procedures to act on non-agenda items. In order to open the agenda and act on one of the possible items above, the board must take 2 votes. First, the majority vote of the board members present at the meeting must vote to add an item to the agenda. Then the board must vote on the agenda item. If this occurs, the reason for the change to the agenda must be announced publicly at the meeting before conducting a vote to change the agenda. 2, the modified agenda must be published on the township's website and posted at the township's offices by the next business day following the meeting. 3, the meeting minutes must reflect the added agenda items, the vote to modify the agenda, and announce reason for the change. If we don't follow these new procedure, if a legal action is filed within 30 days of the meeting, which was open, or within 30 days of discovery of the meeting, which was not open, the court may enjoin the challenge action and invalidate it. Any board member who participates in a meeting with the intent and purpose of violating the Sunshine Act commits a summary offense and shall, upon conviction, can be assessed a fine ranging from $100 to $2,000 if prosecuted. So I just wanted everyone, and we sent an email out to all of our municipal managers and such, but now that this is going into effect, it's good that all council knows and knows your ability to bring up something new that's not on the agenda is very, very limited. So
can you also send that to us?
Yeah, I will. Yeah,
That would be great.
sure.
Anyone have any questions for concerns?
I have a question. So if I'm understanding it, so, like we did tonight, because it was, error in, spelling and whatever.
It was in the, so it was in the.
Yeah, you give the public notice of what actually was being voted on. That's why I said what I said.
Okay.
You can change things.
So I'm asking, so that's an example of what you're talking about. Okay. All right.
And you can change things within something that's posted. So say there was, a vote on fees or something related to that. If the manager went ahead and said, hey, this fee on this specific issue was not correct, that's fine because the public understood there was notice that there would be a discussion and a public debate on fees. The question is something coming out of the blue, and that's the issue.
Councilman Wood?
With regards to the fact that some of the buildings get closed for COVID and things like that, is there a requirement posted on, say, outside of the building, in the glass? Or what's the time frame that's involved?
Well, the governor's emergency order related to in-person meetings there is none. So all government agencies must hold in-person meetings.
Right, but
I
if all
understand,
the.
building may not be open.
Where do we post it?
Oh, I mean, I would, well, the building's open to the public.
Are so the township buildings open to the public all the time? Within normal business?
Oh, okay. I don't think you're going to get into the weeds on this. I think you should work on substantial compliance. I think you should post the agenda either in the building or the public if it's open. If it's not open, put it on the outside of the building or on the website. If I think you put it on the website, I don't think the court's going to come and find you for that.
Okay. Thanks for
Yeah.
Councilman Silva?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So a lot of times we have items that come up in new or old business or like motions that are brought before by council members. Is that
If it's not an agenda item and it's something new, it's probably not going to be able to happen. Okay. So I think the key is making sure the agenda is correct. Myself, the CAO, the mayor, has a call with Council President Wentz the Monday before Wednesday meeting every time. We usually go over things with Alexis too. Obviously, sometimes things happen, mistakes are made, but we're gonna have to be more cognizant that the agenda reflects, the business we want to be on that, so it's accurate.
So in other words, any new items that would need a motion, council members need to make sure I know it the week before the council meeting so that we can get it onto the agenda.
And if you're unsure that even if something's going to be acted on, it's probably better just to put it on the agenda. I mean, they could always table it, but then there's no question that it's, accounted for.
Okay. May I
Like how
make
did
a comment there? I mean, the agenda itself calls for discussion of new business. In keeping with what you're saying, though, there's nothing wrong with a council member bringing up an item of new business.
Oh, no, we just can't vote on it. If it's for these
For
categories.
future action.
No, for future action, that's fine. But for action that evening, that's the issue that this new law, I believe, is trying to severely limit.
Yeah, I think that's usually the case with new business items. Something that we're going to be acting on or hopefully acting on at a future meeting.
Right, there have been
So-
a few occasions that an issue has come up during new business or old business and a motion was made in reference to it.
And previously, before this, my opinion would have been if something came up under new business, say to approve a contract that was not on there for snow removal or whatever it is, right? So long as there was a motion made for that, it was seconded, there was an opportunity for public comment, I would have said, okay, that's valid. Under this, no. That's kind of the difference.
Well, you can do it, but now, of course, in 2000.
Hopefully not.
Right, so, okay, anyone else have any questions for the solicitor? Okay, seeing none. Great, thank you very much. Thank you. So next up, we have old business. Anyone have any old business?
Yeah, I just want to remind council members and the public that we're doing the fact this Saturday at Central Playground. We are supposed to get some rain. The rain date I had is supposed to rain on that day too. School starting in a week or two. So I'm going to meet with some of the people that I came together to work on this project with and see what we can do if it's scattered and we have some opportunity. We still plan on having it. If not, we plan on doing drop offs for the beds. But tomorrow will be the last day to sign up. I'm going to email you all the link. And let me know. I want to also thank a lot of members of the community that dropped off a lot of supplies and some of my friends on council that they're really supportive helping me through this process. So thank you.
You're welcome. And also, as State Representative Zabel also has a book bag.
10 to 12, I guess.
10 to 12 is, and yours is 12. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for hosting that. Anyone else have old business? Okay, seeing none. New business? Yeah, Councilman Quinn, Councilman Quinn, before Councilman Quinn, go ahead.
I'd like us to consider the issue of grass cutting, specifically the people that have the grass, watch various guys come along with the blowers and they blow the grass into the streets. This creates problems with the drains and things like that. We have to figure out a way of encouraging them not to do that. So it's just a topic out there I'd like us to consider. So,
They also blow it onto not just the street, but other neighbors' property.
yeah,
Versus actually picking it up and making it go.
it's not that they're blowing it out. If they would collect it when it's in the street and get it out of the way, that's what we need to accomplish. If they aren't, then maybe they ought to be fined.
Okay. So. Which. That. Municipal service, which. We'll figure out where, which committee that gets. Okay. Anyone else? Ms. Phillips? All right, Councilwoman Phillips.
I forgot to mention this earlier, so I was gonna mention it now. Connect by Night is open. They're not open overnight like they used to be. They're no longer a shelter. This is true. They do more day services and people can go there to take a shower. I called and confirmed that. So they can go there, they can take a shower, they can do, they have substance abuse counselors there, they have behavioral health counselors, they have all those things there. And 7,200 water, thank you. So that is open. So because I know Recovery Without Barriers was saying that that place wasn't open and it is. And they're right, it's not open as the shelter like it was, but it is open during the day. And it's open from 7 a.m. to 6, yes.
I just want to correct.
Councilman Bennett, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I said, one is 7200 Chestnut.
Chestnut, yeah. So it is open.
Great, thank you for that clarification. Anyone else? With new business? Being none. Can we get one more motion, a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion.
And all those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.